Brought to you by Sayge Media.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
We've got a great show lined up for you.
Tequila's a whole different kind of drunk.
That's a dumb stripper.
They're always stupid.
Good point.
Who are those guys?
You just reach your arm in there and give it a couple of tugs. And
How do you give someone an IOU for a shit in the mouth?
They just keep telling the story.
Want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
boo bop, diddly bop, pop, pop, boom.
How'd all you people get in my house?
It's half Jaeger and it's half rhinoceros piss after he's ate asparagus.
Who's in here eating chips, taking a shit?
What the hell is wrong with you people?
Cue it up. All right, there we go. Here we are with another exciting episode of the Guys Like Us show. You think people will notice I'm wearing the same shirt? We're good, right? Okay.
Probably not. This one
right,
will probably
so-
end up going before the other one anyway. So.
No, please don't do. Oh my god, it's like being caught up in the fucking Matrix. It's like being in a fucking Tarantino film.
I don't understand why it gives you so much trouble.
It just baffles me for some reason. I don't know what it is. It's like, okay, well, we're gonna talk about some good shit next week. That's for sure. 2 weeks from now. Look forward to that. I know we're gonna nail it on that one.
I wasn't even planning on rearranging the episodes, but after you brought it up, now I want to.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the previous episode then. That was a pretty good one.
Next episode.
Or it might be the next one.
Next episode.
Next episode.
I hope you enjoyed the next episode.
I hope you enjoy all the episodes. All the episodes. Go back. We have a extensive catalog now. Is everything mixed? By the way, by the way, this is Ryan, your host. Guys Like Us, number one. Guy number two, down to you're the middle center.
Come on.
You know how they used to say left of the dial?
Yeah.
Over to the left of your dial is such and such or whatever. So bottom center on your Zoom here.
I brought up change of the weeks, and I feel like now he's just freaking out.
Yeah. Messing it all up. I'm like
it's in the back of his mind. He's like trying to think of stuff to say, but it's
I'm sure
in the back of his mind. He's like, I don't even know if I could say hello to these guys without it.
Yeah.
How does the order of the show affect me saying hello?
Right. I brought that one thing up. Now he put the landing gear down way too early.
It's like there has to be like a Giphy of
Let's wrap it up.
like a 40-meter dash, and there's the one guy that just starts tripping right as he gets out the gate. Just starts fucking stumbling. That's what right at the start. So anyway, how you guys doing?
Well, that was a great show. Wrap it up. Don't step on down power lines.
Yeah. Don't spill your drink on the board either.
Board's way over there. Well, it's right here actually. But
so did you guys get caught up on the Mayans yet?
I am not. I didn't watch the series finale yet.
What do you do with your life?
I know. I didn't watch the series finale yet.
What could have prevented you? At this point, depending when this airs, it's either 6 months old or 2 weeks old by now.
Well, it's like 3 days old, but
yeah.
We didn't get around to it yet. That's definitely high up on our list, but we were busy all weekend. So
let me ask you: have you eaten?
Yeah.
Have you slept?
I had a whole Thanksgiving dinner.
Have you slept?
Well, hold on. I had a whole Thanksgiving dinner 2 weeks from now.
Right. You did. Yeah. Looking forward to that, aren't you? But have you slept?
Yeah.
Okay, 2 fucking things you could have either done at the same time or eliminated to make time to watch the last episode of mine.
Well, I would have watched it tonight, but we're doing this shit instead.
Well, this is the only thing better than that, though.
So I actually had stuff to talk about on this. Like I said, don't spoil the finale here because I didn't watch a series.
So here's what happens.
But
Jack's eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did hear some Sons of Anarchy news, and I've kind of read some stuff about Mayans and people's complaints about some shit. Not like spoiling stuff, but just in general complaints about the whole last season. So first off, how have you guys felt about the last season of the show?
It was a lot.
It was a lot.
Well, it's almost
So the last
every
episode's almost 2 hours long, I think.
Here's
So
the thing,
that's
ever
why we
since-
didn't watch it yet, is because it was late enough
that
every night
helped.
that we were able to get to it that it was like I can't do 2 hours.
And they needed every
Here's the-
minute of it.
Right. Here's the thing. It's like either we already talked about or in the future we'll talk about how we go into things like not wanting to, like, we weren't the type to like shit on the end of Game of Thrones like people
Right.
did. We wanted to enjoy the show. That's how they ended it. Great. That's how they told the story. We're like that. And so, but ever since then, you know, once you've had time to digest that, I do get a little bit paranoid when there's so much to wrap up.
Yeah.
And you could I get stressed seeing the clock ticking.
For sure.
It's like,
Yeah.
you know,
And I think-
you know,
It's only 17. It's only 17 minutes left.
Right.
Who else is going to die?
Right. And Ryan, I think you're right. Game of Thrones is a good comparison. I think you're right that, you know, we weren't the ones seeking out to shit on Game of Thrones. However, even when it happened, we were, I think, maybe acknowledging the some of the downsides of it. You know,
Sure.
like weren't looking to go like, man, fuck this show. They ruined it.
Right.
They did all this shit. You know, but it was also like they did kind of fuck up the last season here. Like, I wish they would have had 2 more seasons so they could have done it right. But
Right.
you know, I enjoyed all of what they gave us. You know, like it's still,
Right.
you know,
Right.
not being bitter
Well,
about what we got, but also acknowledging that they
Well,
really,
I think one of the
they
things
should
you
have done it
probably
better.
want to. I think one of the things you want to touch on is circumstances beyond certainly our control, and their control was they were. This was going to be it regardless. They weren't going to be given more time to stretch this out.
Yeah,
I know.
and
I know, like
definitely
Game of
gonna get
Thrones, they
into
were
that.
offered more seasons and stuff like that. But yeah,
Well, you know, like with Game of Thrones, I mean, everybody shits on the last season, but there were parts of the last season, like personally, the Battle of Winterfell.
Yeah.
that was probably the most epic thing I've ever seen on TV.
It was awesome.
yeah, a lot of fun.
It really
fucking
it's just the
amazing.
last episode of Game of Thrones that really
Right.
kind of fell off. It was, you know,
But even then, I was like, okay. I mean, it wasn't as good as I'd hoped, but you know, I still liked it. Okay, you know, I mean, it's just like same for like the end of Sopranos. There's no way that you could ever end it where everybody's going to be happy.
I think some of the issue there. So I think Sopranos is a good example of like there's nothing you could have done that made everyone happy, and you know I know blacking out the screen definitely didn't make a lot of people happy, but there was no way, like they were kind of backed into a corner where you really had to either kill Tony or, you know, like there was only so many ways that could have played out, but the scene in Game of Thrones where Tyrion's talking about, like, and who has a better story than Bran the Broken? It was like, well, literally everybody in the story, literally everyone has a better story than he does. This was stupid. This was a stupid way to write it.
That is my
You know,
that's my biggest thing.
it's
Is
like,
literally
everyone.
What he literally has, when he became 30-Eye Raven, was like, I could never be the king,
Right.
or whatever.
that's what I mean. Is like, well, that seems like you just got lazy and gave up right at the end, because everyone here has a better story than he does.
Yeah.
I feel like you didn't know what you were gonna do, and I still believe that fat.
It almost feels like I'll tell you, it almost felt like a fixed basketball game where like everybody had their money as to who would be on the throne at the end.
Yeah.
So nobody had their money on him. So they're
I'll
like,
tell you this.
you know, if we make it Bran, then we ain't got to pay all this shit out.
I still think that fat fuck he's not gonna write it on purpose. I think he hopes he dies before he has to put that last book out. I really do, because I think he wrote Bran as the king in the end, and that's what he gave him. And then everyone on the planet hated it, and he was like, well, now I don't know what to do. So I'm just gonna keep putting it off, and hopefully I'll have a heart attack and die before this last book comes out. I really believe that. I don't think he knows how he's gonna wrap it up.
I don't think he's gonna finish him. I don't think he'll finish it before he dies.
I think he's backed into a corner and he doesn't know what to do.
And too, by the way,
I think he really doesn't know what to do.
He looks like the type to go, did I eat at Wendy's twice today?
I better go back just to be sure.
Yeah, he's probably making up
at
least, I don't know, a third of what Arby's pulls in a year, I would guess.
Yeah. Well, let's get back to Mayans and
right.
Sons.
So here's the thing. We've talked extensively about Kurt Sutter can be kind of an asshole, it seems. And
heard rumors.
Yeah.
Abrasive dick.
Yeah.
Abrasive
I think
dick
I heard
is the
about
word.
that. I think I learned about that on this show. Actually,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
it's very informative.
You're right. I believe those were the exact words. Actually, that was abrasive dick.
Abrasive dick was the term used.
Yeah, I believe those were the exact words. I think by his own words, actually, he was like, "I was
By
fired
him,
by being
by
an
him.
abrasive dick." But I'll say this: when he was gone, so he was there for season 1 and season 2. Now, I kind of had even forgotten about some of the stuff, but in all the bitching, I was kind of reminded. Easy in season 1 and season 2, if you remember, he had the photographic memory thing, and it was a huge part of the story. And from season 3, 4, and 5, it's just never talked about ever again.
Yep.
Right.
And there's a lot of storylines actually that were built up in season 1 and 2 that just they're just fucking nonsense after that. They just go to absolutely nothing.
Like Emily, Kurt Sutter eventually knew that at some point that Emily and Easy were going to have a romantic relationship.
There was a plan
show.
for Emily, and then by season 3, they were like, we don't fucking know what to do with this bitch. I think they started to kind of tailspin out on some of those stories, but season 1 and season 2 overwhelmingly was about the club. Season 3 through 5, you got a lot more of the Galindo, you got a lot more of Adelita, which they were big still in the first 2 seasons, but the first 2 seasons was the club, and then here's the side characters. And if you actually look at the amount of time split up in each episode, other than just Easy being on screen, the club almost becomes the side characters to these other stories for the last 3 seasons. And that seemed to really rub a lot of people the wrong way. And I kind of just assumed that all the bitching is the same thing like Game of Thrones, like people bitched about the whole last season, but everyone watched. Well, viewership actually tanked on Mayans in a way that I didn't realize. Once Kurt Sutter was gone, viewership has consistently gone down further and further and further to where I think they let Kurt Sutter save face a little bit. When he got fired, he said, I only planned to do this for 2 or 3 seasons, and then I was going to hand the reins over to Elgin James or whatever the fuck his name is.
Yeah.
I was going to hand the reins over to him anyway, so it's fine. You're in good hands. I do not believe that. Everything about Kurt Sutter we've ever heard is that he is a controlling, abrasive dick. I don't believe that he planned on continuing his fucking biggest show that he's ever done here for 2 seasons, then just giving it to a dude. I don't believe that. I think they let him save face by saying that, and I think they did the same thing with the show where they let them save face by saying, we think this is the right time to wrap the show up. This is a story we wanted to tell. Obviously, that's not true by the last season's pacing being all over the place. I think they were on the verge of not necessarily getting, maybe not getting canceled, but by being told, like, this is your last season. We'll allow you to say you want to wrap it up this season, but this is your last season. After this, you're getting canceled.
That's what happens all the time. They're like, listen, like with politicians, we can let you go out and do this news press saying you're resigning due to family issues or whatever, or we can break this story in.
But I think regardless of if Kurt Sutter were to be able to own the rights to anything or not, I think if it was through the same networks, I don't think they would approve another Sons of Anarchy spinoff. Apparently the viewership was that had trailed off that bad after Kurt Sutter left.
I think that whole world is done now. Now I'm gonna cut in here for a second, so don't lose your train of thought. But there was an interview with Charlie Hunnam from Sons, who played Jax, obviously.
Right.
We all know that, but in case somebody's listening needs that, don't listen to our show if you don't know who Jax was. But anyway, so he was talking about doing a continuation of Sons, and he talked about being in that world before, and when it was done, he was ready to wrap it up and all that kind of stuff and everything. And then now that it's been a while, and even watching Mayans and all that kind of stuff, like, they were kind of like, well, they, you sort of got hit by a truck and all this stuff. And they were like, he was kind of coy about it. Like, well, no, nobody actually saw the body after and all this kind of stuff. But then they talked about, or he talked about the possibility of the story of being about his sons, Thomas and Abel, and him maybe playing Jack's role more from like a spiritual standpoint of like guidance with them and that kind of shit. But it's like we, either talked about before or going to talk about in the next episode of where, you get these sequels and, it's like, I'm fine with that world being done. Sure, I'd probably watch it if it came out because I like hanging out with that group,
I think it's disappointing because originally the plan that Kurt Sutter had been open about, the plan was there was 4 chapters of the Sons of Anarchy universe. And it was Sons of Anarchy, Mayans, First Nine, and Sons. And Sons,
the First Nines is the most interesting.
Yeah, First Nine, but then Sons being, Abel and Thomas, and it being their story.
Wouldn't that kind of be shitty though? Because like it almost defeats the purpose of Sons 2, where it's like he spends most of every season trying to keep his sons out of that life and all that kind of stuff, and you're hoping everything he wrote, like it does what his dad's writing didn't do for him.
Right. And I thought about that. They kind of already did that because they kind of already undid all that. Because if you remember, the whole thing was he rides off to his fucking death knowing that he got the club out of the gun running business, and now they can go legit and all this other shit. Yeah. And then Mayan starts up and immediately they're back in the gun running business.
Yeah.
So I mean, they really did abandon everything Jack stood for like very immediately.
Who the fuck is Jack's teller?
Right, like
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Who the fuck is Jack's teller?
But see, again,
that was awesome.
But you know what? It was awesome. But they do have little things in there that almost seem like little digs at Kurt Sutter. That if you watch back,
I don't have time for shit like that either.
I know, but if you watch back, you will see there is some little stuff where it's like there is some little digs at Sons of Anarchy, at that world of Sons of Anarchy a little bit, where it's kind of like, yeah, that show's dead. This is our show now.
Mm-hmm.
And it really starts at season 3. It seems like season 1 and 2, there's still a little bit of like, we're keeping Sons and Mayans are kind of still, not just that they're not at war, but there is still some like legacy there of the first show and stuff. And then really at season 3, it kind of pivots into this is its own thing. And we're willing to say fuck the Sons of Anarchy within that. And it seems like it's maybe less from the maybe not the writer, but from the studio, less of a creative choice and more of a we don't like this guy because he's an abrasive dick. Which may or may not be true. There's just a lot of evidence that points to that. But it is disappointing, I think, that it does seem like, regardless of... I really liked Mayans. I thought it was a really good show. I enjoyed all of it that I've seen so far. But it does definitely seem like it was cut early, and we're not going to get anything else from that universe because the viewership tanked after Kurt Sutter was gone. And that it really goes back to the writing of the actual show. Seems like the writing just wasn't as strong after season 2, according to most people that watched it. Again, I liked it all the way through.
I don't know. I thought it was good.
I thought
it was good.
That's what I'm saying. Through. I thought it was really good. Again, I haven't seen the series finale. I think it's really good all the way up to what I've seen. But I do understand some of the complaints of like, what the fuck happened to this storyline? What happened to this? What happened to this? What happened to this?
Here's one thing
that obviously happens, but it's also, it's the writing change. So you could tell that there was setups in season 1 and 2 that never really paid off, and the story went different directions because maybe Kurt Sutter is the only one who knew where he was going with the stories.
Right, and that's what I mean is that I don't necessarily know that it means that the writing is not as good, but it's definitely different.
Right.
But when it changed, it seems like a lot of people were not there for the change. And without Kurt Sutter, I don't know that we're getting anything else from that world. And with Kurt Sutter, I don't know that anyone's going to hire him for that world. So I think the world of Sons of Anarchy is probably dead after the finale of Mayans here.
One thing always stands out though is the almighty dollar.
Yeah.
If there's money to be made, somebody will hire him.
Well, yeah, but they lost so much money on Mayans that I don't know what that means.
Because he wasn't in it.
Sure.
I'll give you my one sort now that it's all over, and this isn't really a spoiler because you would know this leading up. My one sort of issue with it, and it's comparable to a wrestling thing too, is in 2001 WCW went out of business, and so Vince McMahon bought WCW, and he brought in guys from WCW to start feuding with the WWE guys. And it was called the Invasion, right? Like one company's invading the other because one guy owns everybody. But all the key guys from WCW didn't come over. They all had contracts with Time Warner, and they decided to sit at home and ride those out. So this big storyline of this invasion to this day is like considered a huge flop because you didn't have the main guys.
Yeah, you had the B-list guys.
Right. And so for me with the Mayans, the one thing I always thought was kind of missing is the war with Sons of Anarchy was not the war with like the charming Sons of Anarchy guys that we know. Like it wasn't the main guy. Like Happy was in there here and there.
I mean, Happy,
but there's no Chip
and
there's no
Montez. I mean, they killed Montez.
Right. And what's the I don't know why I'm blanking on him.
Tig?
Yeah.
Chibs?
No, Tig. I named Chibs, but Tig it would be great to see like this universe that you already learned, and now there's this universe that's been developed.
Here's the reason why. Because if you saw Chibs and all the people like Tig and people who survived, and you saw them going to war, you wouldn't know who to pull for.
Right.
And that's what I do and don't agree is I think in a way I think that's a really cool story, you not knowing who to pull for. But I also think if they killed Chibs and Tig, it would have really, really made the show. It would have been detrimental to Mayans because I think. But
if you're wrapping up Mayans, if Mayans is done anyway, you can do whatever you want to. There's no consequence.
Yeah, but I think the love for Chibs and Tig is higher than the love for Easy and Angel and those guys in this show.
Agreed.
Right. And that's fine. You've sent everybody home happy, and you did something that nobody would have ever seen coming. And it's you were able to do something that people don't do in television. Have two worlds not really at their prime because you don't have Jax and you don't have a lot of the other guys. Yeah. You're right. You don't have all of them, but to have guys that you're familiar with greatly go to war with these other guys that you've spent 5 seasons learning and all that kind of stuff. Like that would have been fucking amazing. But instead it was like Sons of Anarchy in name only. You could have had them be anybody. It didn't have to be Sons of Anarchy. Like it was just it's like using a brand name, but not having the brand itself.
Right. Well, and where the only part that I think I disagree with you on that is where you said you sent everybody home happy. I think it goes back to, I made this argument with The Walking Dead that if
you're not supposed to disagree with me,
if you that's in the contract, you're not allowed to disagree.
Yeah.
If you saw The Walking Dead universe through Negan's group in his eyes, you would think Rick and his group were a bunch of fucking assholes. You would want them to die. But you didn't. You saw it through Rick's group. So fuck Negan. You know what I mean? Like that's the way it is. So when you see it through Rick's group, you only know Glenn as the guy that you love. And then when he gets killed, well, everyone hated Negan to a point where it actually people stopped watching the show.
People stopped watching because of that. Yep.
However, if you saw the story through Negan's group, all you knew is these people came in while our guys were asleep and they killed our Glenn in his sleep. Like this guy that I love, you killed him while he was sleeping. Well,
but what I'm saying is if it's ending all anyway, then what do you care? It's all going to be over anyway.
Well,
You don't have to worry
it.
about the
yeah, but
aftermath.
I think they don't want a Game of Thrones like ending where everybody's going like they fucking ruined the last episode of this show.
I don't think it ruined.
No,
I
I'm
don't
saying,
think it would ruin.
I think if they killed like Chibs or something at the end, I think the people that were there
Right.
from Sons of Anarchy would go like, well, they had every opportunity to do it right, and instead they fucking blew it.
Yep.
I don't
I'm
know.
in agreement. Yeah.
I think it still could have been interesting. And who says you got to kill Chibs, or who says you got to kill? You know, you
Well,
could
if
have
they're gonna,
redone
there's
it
going to
to
be
where
a war. Somebody's going to die.
right. So do the same thing you did. You kill people like Happy, and you kill people like you saw that episode, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's only the
Okay,
last
good.
episode I haven't seen.
Good. But I mean, you can do that. There's still other level guys that you could that
Yeah,
people
you
would
can
know.
kill
You could
Quinn
do
and
that.
people like that.
Yeah, right. It would have been fine. It just, you didn't need it to be Sons for the war to be against because it was never
wasn't really.
this. It was a completely different Sons chapter that nobody,
There's
really
no
knew
attachment
anything.
there.
Right. It's just it's like I said. It's like when National Lampoon started putting their fucking name on any fucking direct to DVD movie that came out. You know, it's like this
Crackle.
is yeah.
So, but okay, so I
fucking love that term.
I did
by the
find
way.
this. I did find this really interesting. I think you guys
Hold
would.
on 1 second. That has become a term, by the way.
Straight to Crackle?
In my world, yeah, Straight to Crackle is like a movie. Like that. The first one was like what Joe Dirt.
Joe
2?
Dirt 2.
Yeah, Joe Dirt too.
Straight to Crackle.
And real quick, that's become a term for like any movie that like wasn't a big movie theater movie release and all that kind of stuff. And it reminds me of when we used to have the Classy with a K. We used to say like if anything didn't show class, we would ironically call it Classy with a K. And we stole that because like you would see like a hair salon that would say Classy Cuts. And both the close to the words are spelled with a K's.
Yeah.
And it's like you don't want to fucking go get your hair.
Do you remember?
You don't
want to
go to Classy Cars and buy a fucking lemon from those guys.
Dad, do you remember when we saw the Joe Dirt 2 thing, like the fucking not the preview, but like the picture preview kind of thing for it, like when it was coming out.
Right.
Do you remember that? It was like
Fake.
the screensaver thing or something where it was like Joe Dirt 2 is coming soon or whatever. We're like, no way, they're making a Joe Dirt 2. And then I was like, hold on, does that say going straight to Crackle? And when I said that, we were on the couch and I was like, does that say straight to Crackle? And you just went, oh no.
And I'll tell you again, or I'll tell you for the first time and you'll hear me say it again later. It's fine to watch. It's like hanging out with Joe Dirt. It's like hanging out with what's her name?
Brandy.
They take Kid Rock out and put like the guy from Sugar Ray, Mark McGrath, is that his name? He like becomes an ass.
I didn't know that.
And of course, the whole movie is like it's just like It's a Wonderful Life. Like Joe Dirt shit happens, and so he starts to think that everybody would have been better off without him, and so I don't know, hits his head on or something or whatever, and gets to see what everybody would be like without Joe Dirt, in their lives and what it would be like.
I do want to see it. I mean, eventually I'll watch it before I die, I guess.
Well, it's only been out like 10 years now.
I'll get around to it. But I did think this was interesting. I read this recently and
bubble wrap my desk.
And
guys are assholes, man.
Just endless noise coming from you.
I know, it's like
fucking
bottle cap rolling around.
I'm a visitor.
For those of you that won't see the video, we had to send Ryan a message to stop fidgeting with shit.
Fucking ignore it, dude. I'm not
banging
even
the
gonna
beer
open,
bottle off the microphone.
I'm not even gonna open that shit. What?
Yeah, that.
Yeah. We could flip the bottle caps around.
You guys suck, man.
Sounds like he's playing quarters over there.
As much as Kurt Sutter in Sons of Anarchy, with his original show, as much as he had all kind of stuff planned out, I guess he also would fly by the seat of his pants a whole lot. And that didn't help when things started. There were actors that decided they wanted to leave the show. More than I knew, decided they wanted
actors that wanted to stay on the show. That he was like, I'm not fucking paying
yeah,
for this guy.
There is that too. Yeah. But
all right, have him step on a fucking landmine.
Speaking of Taylor Sheridan, you guys,
yeah. Well, hold on, because this is actually circling back to him. So this actually, Ryan came. We had talked about that podcast that Juice and Tig do. I think I read it, but I think it might have come from that show that this information came out. So originally, Taylor Sheridan, who was Deputy Hale. We've talked on the show before about how he got killed off because of contract shit, and he was told you'll never be anything, and then he went and made Yellowstone and all this.
Right.
So
they have him dragged by a fucking van.
Right. Yeah. They really killed him in a really disrespectful way.
Yeah.
But remember,
it's a weird dying first episode of season 2 because you're like,
here's the other
not usually where you kill people.
Right. Yeah. So here's the other thing is, remember, it was said when we did that episode, we talked about, it was said that there was kind of a fork in the road. And if he takes the contract, we go this way. If he doesn't, we go this way.
By the way, do you know what the I don't know what you want to call it, but do you know what how like they talk about when a show reaches a peak, does something, they call it jumping the shark.
Yeah.
And that came from Happy Days because
Fonzie
jumped the shark. So that kind of death, they always refer to it as apparently in the past, like they had one particular soap opera where this lady was like fucking fighting her contract or whatever. So they were like, they did the scene where an elevator opens and she goes to step in, but there's no elevator there. So she falls down the shaft and dies. Apparently that's like
that's
they
the
call
jumping
it
the shark thing.
Yeah. That's the jumping the shark when you decide I'm just going to fucking kill you in a really
in a really shitty way.
You get the elevator shaft treatment.
So the other
that's what that happened to Hale.
So the other fork in the road, though, with what it's come out, I guess, a couple different stories, what the original story was for the show.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda been.
Right. And there's two of them that are big because Juice would have had a different story and Hale would have had a different story.
I bet Juice would love any other fucking story.
Yeah, no shit. So
poor Juice.
But so you remember
I spent like 2 seasons just hearing that.
Hashtag poor Juice for like
poor
2-3 seasons.
I'll be honest though, every time I watch that show, I feel less bad for Juice. He really brought a lot of that on himself. But either way,
he got butt fucked by Marilyn Manson. Okay, poor Juice.
But either way, he becomes the rat because his dad was black, basically. That's what it all boils down to. Is
right.
Which they didn't give a shit about.
They didn't care. Well, so that's actually, Ryan, I'm glad you said that. The reason no one in the show gave a fuck at all, that was Kurt Sutter's way of kind of saying, this is a weak storyline and I had to do this last minute. Like, he was kind of poking fun at, like, no one cares about this. Because the original storyline was Half Sack was going to be the rat. And that's the reason Cherry was sent to the IRA in Belfast. Remember, they had to get her the fuck out of the States.
Right.
And she goes to Belfast. Half Sack, the original story was that they were going to use, that they basically found Cherry and they were going to use her as leverage. And the cops kind of put the screws to Half Sack. And he ends up turning rat because he's stuck between, I don't know what to choose between the club and the girl that I love. Which is a way more sensible reason for him to turn rat. And
if you'd spend the time watching the last episode of My Age, you'd be reading about this shit. We'd all be caught up about now.
But Half Sack was going to be the rat. And in real life, he had drug problems and mental health issues and had to be written off the show. So they didn't have a choice to continue the story with Half Sack. But that was not the plan.
He died, right?
Right. Well, that's the thing.
He got killed when that guy took the baby, right?
Yeah, in the show, but in real life, the reason they wrote him off, he's dead in real life. The reason
I didn't know that.
The reason they wrote him off the show is because he was a drug addict and he was a fucking crazy person. And after they wrote him off the show, within like a year or two, he freaked out and he murdered his landlord and jumped off the roof and killed himself.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he had a lot of mental issues and they couldn't keep him on the show anymore and they had to write him off. And that's
weird. Like
killed.
Sutter has a history of that. Because Michael Jace from The Shield murdered his wife, and then he's sitting in jail now too. But he played a cop on The Shield. Michael Jace, the gay cop on The Shield, the bald gay cop.
Yeah.
Like in denial, he murdered his wife in real life and is sitting in jail now.
Wow, that guy was a movie star in the making too, man.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
He was in a few other things too, and it's like, oh, that's he's kind of one of the what they call that guy.
That guy, yeah.
Well, but I mean, if you think not necessarily a movie star in the making, but the guy who played Half Sack, I mean, he did really, really good in Sons. You think he's a guy that maybe could have been that kind of character in a lot of stuff?
He could have been a character actor.
Yeah, he could have been a good character actor.
A lot of those guys are so good at their job in that show that it's hard to view them as anything else. Like Chibs, Chibs is Chibs from now on. He's doesn't matter what actor
he's gotten
what
other
role
work.
he's playing, but whatever role he's in now, it's like, oh, that's Chibs.
Well, Opie's another one. Opie just lives in Opie now.
Yeah,
but either way, but Half Sack was supposed to take on that role. But where it adds more is Taylor Sheridan as Deputy Hale was supposed to stay until right before the very last season, and the reason is throughout the series they kind of tease this Unser is in love with Gemma and she kind of acknowledges it, but she doesn't love him back, Right. What was and Jax is the mirror of Clay, Tara is the mirror of Gemma. Hale was supposed to be the mirror of Unser. And they teased that Hale loved Tara early on. Remember when what's his name is coming after her? Agent Cone, when he's coming after her. Remember, Hale gets really protective. And so they kind of teased this idea that Hale actually has a thing for Tara, but she's into Jax and not Hale, but he tries to be the knight in shining armor a little bit.
Right.
The idea was that Hale would kind of be the guy like Unser that is in love with Tara, would be there for everything she needs, but she never loves him back because she chooses the club over him and chooses Jax over him. And in the
the way, the typecast thing, that's the reason why we lost 2 years of waiting for The Sopranos is when James Gandolfini was like, all I'm ever going to be known as is this gangster.
Yeah.
So you're going to pay me for everything I lose.
I don't blame him.
Not being able to get roles that
I don't blame him for that though.
No,
speaking
I don't
of,
either.
So watching the Mayans where they have the one of the last episodes there where I even forget her name, but
Wendy.
Yeah.
So when Wendy shows up to give what's his name Easy a ride on the motorcycle because he wrecks his motorcycle and she's right behind him.
Right.
And when she rolls up, I don't think of her as Wendy. I think of her
Adriana.
as Adriana. I was stoned when I was watching the episode, and when she rolled up, I'm like, no way. What the fuck is Adriana doing here?
Yeah.
And I'm watching it. I'm like, wait a minute. She's dead. Yeah. Christopher, wait a minute. They killed her. What is she doing? And I'm like, oh,
that was
that's right.
You know what's funny is
I think of her as Wendy first.
What's funny is when they killed her off on Sopranos, her next immediate thing was she played. They did a spinoff of Friends called Joey.
I remember
where it was just Joey's character.
I didn't see it.
She played his sister in that
Nobody
show.
did.
Yeah.
Right. Nobody watched it, so it was like one season long. But she played his sister in that show, and like it was, less than a year since she got murdered on Sopranos, or since we all saw it anyway. And so I couldn't not tell myself that, oh, she's she didn't get killed, but she's in witness protection now. Like hiding out in Hollywood. Like, I'm going to hang out with this Joey guy.
I think it's crazy that even still Southside Steve says that's his favorite show of all time is the Joey spinoff.
Really?
Yes. He says that's his favorite show of all time is the Joey spinoff.
It's got to be a rib.
I
Nope.
think
That's
she's
not
awesome
Joey's
actress,
favorite
though.
show.
Yeah, right. Oh, she's awesome. But well, hold on. So
She is awesome.
I want to wrap this up here. So, but apparently, since Hale was supposed to be there the whole time, and that kind of love thing that he has for Tara that she doesn't have back for him, when Tara gets murdered by Gemma at the end, remember Juice kills Roosevelt. Remember Roosevelt steps in, and Roosevelt's the heavy against the Sons.
Right.
And then he starts to come around to understanding why the cops work with them, and then he gets killed by Juice. All of that story was supposed to be Hale. And so when he gets killed at the end, it's supposed to be Half-Sack is the rat who kills Hale, and that's the poetic justice. That's the Shakespeare part of it, is Tara chooses the outlaw life and it gets her killed, but what's his name? Hale chose Tara, and that gets him killed by the rat because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time trying to be there for Tara. And that's how he dies at the end.
Kind of a sliding doors thing.
Well, if you guys haven't seen any of the new that show 1883, then right?
I have not.
No, I haven't watched it. That's on it's on my off-season list.
It's only one season long, so it's basically the first of the Duttons basically.
I have like 1 or 2 episodes left of Yellowstone.
So they're going going from I guess Texas, and they're going to they're actually going to Oregon, and they're basically traveling with these immigrants, these German immigrants who know nothing about anything. I mean, they're just so Sam Elliott and this other dude, they're basically chaperoning essentially and taking them, and these Germans, they don't know how to do anything. They don't even know how to swim. So when it comes to like crossing rivers, people are fucking dying, and it's a really a pretty damn good show, because when I was traveling out west, I remember talking to my dad about this. It was like, imagine the stones on these fucking people to get in a covered wagon and go, 2,000 miles across the country. You can't carry enough shit on your wagon to make it. So you've got to be hunting food all the time. You've got to be hunting water. And everybody out there, anybody you meet is going to try to kill you and take your shit.
Right.
Who was the comedian that talked about that? Was talking about the cross country and like babies are born along the way and people are killed by Indians. He's like, you'd be a different group of people by the time you got there.
Yeah. Well, that's actually true, because that was one of the things when they're crossing a stream, and they're like, we got to lighten the wagons up, and they got to looking in these immigrants looking in their wagons, and they're like fucking pianos in there and big dining room tables, and they're like, all this shit's got to go, and he's pulling all this shit out, and they're like, no. He's like, this man is a musician. He's like, how many times do I have to tell you people, you're not a musician. You're not a farmer. You're not anything. You're pioneers until you get to where we're going. Your only job is to fucking survive. Yeah. Sam Elliott does a great job in this.
Sam Elliott's awesome at everything.
I've got 2 episodes left to go on it, and it's really, really fucking good. And so after that, I'm going to start that 1923.
Nice.
So that one's the one with Harrison Ford, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So like we either talked about him or we'll talk about him in the future in the Indiana Jones stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was next week.
All right.
Way back next week.
Way back.
But I think who he is in this show is the brother of the main character in this show. I had to look at the family tree thing.
The little brother.
I think. What's that?
Is he like the little brother or something like that?
I thought I actually got to I started doing the math on it. I don't know if he's little brother or not, but because in 1883, the main guy who was James Dutton, he's probably in his 30s, which means he was probably born in 1850. Figure that, and then 1923 is 73 years old. So somewhere in that range. Right, and so I look at the pictures of Harrison Ford in that show, and he's obviously made out to be an old dude, pretty old in that show.
Well, he is an old dude.
So, but I mean, he looks like he's in his 70s, I guess is what I'm saying in the show. So it makes sense. But there's the little boy who is in the show who is basically the John Dutton from Yellowstone. I think that is his great grandfather if I did the math right. Either great grandfather or great great grandfather. But it's a good show, man.
Let me ask you a question then. So there's all this stuff going on now with the current stuff where Kevin Costner has decided to leave, and so they're going to make the season 5 the end of this iteration of Yellowstone. But it seems like it's weird because they talk about this being the last, this season 5 being the last season, but it's going to continue on, and they're going to bring in a Matthew McConaughey
spinoff
character, like a spinoff. So it's like, so is it like a complete spinoff? Do you guys think it's a complete spinoff where they just end this story, or is it where maybe because they make it seem like
he comes in
Cole
and takes his
Heiser
spot, basically,
right? But so why not just make it season 6? And then you change some of the characters out because, like, Cole Hauser apparently supposed to be in the new one, and Beth and whoever else,
I think maybe
stuff.
To use what we were just talking about as an example, if you continued Sons of Anarchy, but you were like, "Hey, Jax died. Here's some other guy," I think people would not like it.
Listen,
so I think it's really that.
Listen. It worked for the '70s show. Okay?
I was just about to say it didn't work for the '70s show.
Well, it did.
I was literally just about to say that.
Yeah.
That is the best example of that going smooth as fuck. Okay.
Yeah. Like everybody's favorite character, Randy.
Yeah, Randy Pearson, everyone's favorite guy.
Favorite
he's not
character
even
ever.
He's not even anybody's favorite Meyer. Like
Yeah.
He's not even his mom's favorite Meyer.
Oh, you mean the Eli Manning of the Meyer brothers?
Yeah. He's like Cooper. I think he's the Cooper brother.
Manning, yeah, Cooper Manning.
Yeah.
He's the Cooper Manning, and there's only 2 of them.
Joke about that thing. You remember how, like, we talked about Thanksgiving, or we're going to talk about Thanksgiving?
Yeah, we will.
Yeah. We always have that joke about the Thanksgiving table at the Manning residence. We're like, what'd you do this year, Eli?
I won a Super Bowl. What about you? MVP. How about you?
Kind of MVP. I closed this account down at the insurance office. I got this. I signed this policy. It was pretty good. I was third runner up for employee of the month there.
Got the U-Haul rental car business going on.
Yeah,
we're insuring all those guys.
Yeah.
Now.
Has anyone
Alamo franchises?
Has anyone benefited more from like these new, like kind of like Pat McAfee has his show that's like it is a sports show, but it's not like a traditional sports show. Does it benefit from that kind of thing more than Eli Manning? That dude has made a fucking comeback. People love Eli Manning now.
Well, I think it stemmed from that whole
the Monday Night Manning, but
I think the Chad Powers thing really excelled that when he came up here to Penn State.
Yeah,
and he did that.
Yeah, I know that helped for sure. But
run fast, think fast, run fast, and all that.
Yeah,
shit. Like,
but the Monday Night Manning thing, just seeing them talk shit back and forth, people were like, "Oh, Eli Manning's a pretty cool dude," but like, there was a long time that everyone was like, Eli Manning fucking sucks just because he's not Peyton Manning.
I think he was always stressed out being a New York quarterback in New York City. The press was always fucking hounding him if he wasn't upsetting Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. They shit on him the rest of the time.
Well,
and
they also caught that picture of him with that stupid looking face that became a meme. So I mean, like he was on the receiving end of.
I'm sorry, it
for
became
a long
what?
time.
A meme. He does have a stupid face.
He does, but he was on the wrong end of the internet for a long time.
Yeah.
Peyton doesn't. Peyton's. He's got that big giant forehead.
Yeah.
So.
Well, he does have have a dumb face, but he's called the sheriff, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Eli didn't have a cool nickname.
I started now that the pilot bar is pretty much finished. I started building like an outdoor movie theater. And I was trying to figure out what side screen that I wanted for that one. And I went all out and got the Peyton Manning. That thing's going to look beautiful. Like you're going to feel like you're there.
We're going to put it on somebody's forehead. I mean.
So anyway, I had a segue a long time ago, by the way, and we sailed past it. So I was talking before about how like you get all the good names from Sons of Anarchy and bring them into the Mayans, right? And that's similar to how like supergroups are formed in music. I don't know if you guys have any opinions on this. I've kind of heard some stuff lately where they were talking about what the best supergroup is, and the first one that even popped in my mind, I think, is the best. But I decided not to look into other supergroups. I wanted to hear if you guys have supergroups. Do you want me to give you mine first?
I want to hear y'all's first because I have two answers, and one of them's a little bit of not. Both of them, I think I would have to clarify. So both of you guys answer first.
But I didn't want to research this at all. I didn't want to look at other supergroups to see what other possibilities there were. The one that popped into my head, and it didn't come up in their discussion, but I think I thought of initially of the Traveling Wilburys. Because in that group, you have George Harrison, a Beatle. You have Tom Petty, Roy Orbison, Jeff Lynne from ELO, and Bob Dylan.
I didn't even think about that.
I can't imagine how you have. I can't imagine how you could have a better supergroup. You know, like just in talent. Now maybe there's. I'm also open to were there more successful.
I was going to say, are we talking
super groups?
Yeah, what's the criteria?
Because I mean, they had a lot
talent?
of they had a lot of success, but also Roy Orbison passed away before even their first music video came out, so they didn't tour with him. He recorded the songs on the first album. They actually put out a second album that didn't have him on it, obviously, and then they died. You know, the whole thing died off, and everybody moved on. So. You know, they had, Handle with Care. They had End of the Line. They had like hit songs and stuff like that. But like just in sheer star power, I can't imagine there being anybody who tops that. When Jeff Lynne from ELO is like your least significant member,
right?
You know, and maybe who's next? Tom Petty, is he the next on the bottom of the totem pole?
I think with that, it kind of depends on what's the criteria. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't really care much, but are you going to go off of talent or are you going off of significance in music?
Well, I'm saying I'm curious to talk. I'm curious to talk about all of that. Like, is there, like I said, I didn't want to look into this to see, I
think I have some that would rival. I think I have some that might rival that.
All right, well, go ahead.
Hold on, real quick. Dad, do you have any super groups you're thinking of? Because again, some of mine are a little bit.
He tapped out about 20 minutes ago.
No, I'm saying I have groups that I would think. I don't know if you would technically call them a super group or not, though.
Right.
Okay, well, go ahead.
I think David Lee Roth's solo album.
That's exactly one of them I was thinking of. Yeah.
I don't know if that would be considered a super group, but
well, I was going to ask you guys because I wasn't around when that came out, but today that would absolutely be considered a super group. But at the time,
you know what's weird is the only thing that makes it weird is I dropped that cat. Sorry, but the only thing is like they didn't acknowledge it like it was a band, like like Trevor and Wilburys. They all changed their name even to Wilbury. Like they all had. Like one of them became Nelson Wilbury. And it was still, they tried to keep so much of the focus on David Lee Roth, and nobody if they had like a band name.
Well,
I think it would help a little bit.
Yeah, I mean it was his band, but I mean you can make the same argument that Ozzy was his band, but Randy Rhoads will never not be important in music, So I don't know that I would usually go down that road with it.
He didn't really like. He came up basically as Ozzy's guitarist, correct? Like he wasn't part of some other.
Right.
Yeah,
quite right. But I was actually going to ask you guys because that was one of the ones that I was thinking was the Eat 'Em and Smile, lineup. But today they would absolutely be a super group. In that time, though, I was going to ask you guys: were they received kind of as a super group, or were they more so unknown individually that they weren't a super group?
I think at the time, like I remember like going, oh hey, like holy shit, like Steve Vai's his guitarist now, or Billy's his bassist.
Yeah.
Where, you know, it was like I knew who these people were because, you know, me and my buddies would like read the guitar magazines, and we thought it seemed to us like David Lee Roth decided on the second album, I'm going to go hire the best this, that, and the other that
everyone.
I can hire. I don't know who the drummer was, but
Greg Bissonette.
yeah. So, you know, it seemed that one that he seemed like the New York Yankees, where he was just going to go spend a shitload of money and bring in whoever
but that kind
was
of is
available and the best. Right.
So Dad is the one who brought it up. I mean, where do you land on that? I mean,
at the time, I wouldn't have considered them technically a supergroup, and I guess because they didn't really have supergroups at the time. But I was amazed that
Traveling Wilburys were the same.
Traveling Wilburys were
mid to late 80s.
Technically, Cream was considered a supergroup.
Yeah. I mean, it's been done. It had been done before that. I don't know
what I'm saying is I was absolutely amazed. I don't know that the term was used, but I was absolutely amazed that he was able to put together a band that was more talented than the one he was in before that.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, how do you find a better guitar player than Eddie Van Halen?
Boy, did that start some fights, though, with people.
He did.
Say that. Yeah.
He did, you know?
Yeah.
Now, I personally feel like Michael Anthony is a way underrated bass player. He is really good.
He's much better than he showcases.
He wasn't allowed to showcase it.
Right.
But he definitely wasn't Billy Sheehan.
No.
Nope. Nobody is. So, now I'll say in drums, I mean, Alex Van Halen is a stud, so I would have to give the nod to him more because I don't know enough about Greg Bissonette, but I've seen Alex Van Halen. He's
Alex
amazing.
Van Halen's a monster.
He is.
So I have a couple here that I'll kind of ask if you guys would qualify them as supergroups. Because again, they might be kind of same like the Eat 'em and Smile thing. That was one of mine that's a little bit on the line. I don't know if they were technically considered a supergroup at the time or not, you know? I mean, the Yardbirds / Led Zeppelin. I mean, Clapton, Jimmy Page.
Hold on. That's a supergroup before the individual members of that band became.
Yeah. They weren't established before then, right?
Right, kind of like the Eagles. Are the Eagles a supergroup? You know what I mean? So each individual member of that band became superstars, but they were the Eagles first.
Yeah, so let's go Led Zeppelin.
So here's a good example of what's a supergroup is the Highwaymen.
That's
where like Willie Nelson and you know they all.
I was going to bring that one up to rival the one you threw out. I was thinking the Highwaymen would be a good one to kind of rival that in terms of just big names all getting together.
Yeah, like they consider Bad Company to be a supergroup.
See, I don't think of them as a supergroup.
I don't think so. They became a supergroup. I wouldn't.
I don't think of them as a supergroup at all.
Well, really. See, now I've pulled up the list, and they're listed like number 3 of supergroups on there.
Cream, I know, is a big one that they are considered a supergroup.
Right, they have that as the first example. Bad Company's actually listed as the second example. Wilburys is actually listed as third. Well, another one that's interesting that along like Nick's line of thinking, I don't think of this as a supergroup. I think of it as a trio sometimes, and then with one addition, it sort of becomes a supergroup. Is Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. Like I see them as like the Eagles. I've never thought of them as individual.
Well,
like apparently in the music industry,
but were they big before? I don't know the timelines of their music.
Apparently, like if you ask them, like somebody who was a musician during the time, they'll say absolutely all 3 of them were individually talented, like had their own careers and all that kind of stuff, doing this or that, and then it sort of became a super group when Neil Young would join in because he was a household name. You know, I
just don't know the timelines of music. I'm sure a lot of people would say that about Clapton and Jimmy Page back in the Yardbird days too, but I mean, they weren't what they became. So I don't know.
Well,
I would
what do
kinda
you
defer
think?
to y'all.
Well, I mean, that's like saying the Beatles, though. The Beatles, they're a super group,
Right, but they were the Beatles.
they were the Beatles first.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
How about history?
You had to have
going-
had this established.
How about history of the fact that George Harrison, when he quit the Beatles for a short time, they were strongly considering trying to bring Eric Clapton in to replace him.
I would have loved to see how that played out.
Imagine.
I think that becomes. I think that's like Van Halen. Then you have a lineup change, but it's still the same. It's still a group
level of talent.
Like nobody thought about it. So that is another consideration. Like bands that are sort of the same but change.
See, I don't consider that a super.
What
group,
about
though.
like Velvet Revolver, who is basically Guns
Velvet
N' Roses?
Revolver, I would say, could fall.
But it's
into the
basically
category.
Guns N' Roses, but with
Scott Weiland.
Well, or like Audio Slave.
I was about to say Audio, but I was going to say Audio Slave. I would consider maybe along those lines, but they're Rage Against the Machine plus Chris Cornell.
Right. It's like a band, but with a new singer.
I was gonna say I don't know if that's considered a super group, but I would kind of consider it.
Van Halen going with Sammy Hagar after David Lee Roth left.
Well, kind of, but I would argue it's a little different because Audio Slave became a whole different band. Velvet Revolver became a whole different band. Sammy Hagar came into Van Halen, but they were still Van Halen.
True. They were still Van Halen,
right? But they left Rage Against the Machine to become Audio Slave, and he.
Well, maybe it's because who owned the rights to the name.
That's possible too. Well, I know Axl owns the rights to Guns N' Roses, so Velvet Revolver had to be different.
Exactly. Same. I'm wondering if that Zach De La Roche or whatever his name is, I wonder if he owned the rights to
it's possible. I'm not sure, but either way, but does that qualify as a supergroup when you become a whole new band? Because their style changed completely. Van Halen, even though the style changed kind of from David Lee Roth to Sammy Hagar,
it's still very similar.
Still Van Halen. They were still. They kind of catered to Sammy Hagar, but it was still Van Halen. Audio Slave is completely different than Prophets of Rage.
Yeah, I think
or not
that
Prophets of Rage, but Rage Against the Machine.
And you can't sleep on Damn Yankees either.
Yeah, that was a super group, but I don't know.
Because you had Ted Nugent and what's his name from Styx, and
I'll give you an underrated one.
Wasn't Brad Gillis in that?
Yeah, I think so.
I'll give you an underrated one. Chicken Foot.
Okay.
Chicken Foot. Chicken Foot.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
They're underrated. I mean, that Sammy Hagar, Joe Satriani, what's his name there from the Chili Peppers? Chad Smith from the Chili Peppers.
That dude's a bad motherfucker.
And Michael Anthony on bass. Yeah. I think that's the epitome of a supergroup.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Yep.
But they don't really have a lot of name recognition. The Winery Dogs, I think, is another one.
Right.
Which one?
The Winery Dogs.
The Winery Dogs.
Yeah, that's Billy Sheehan, Mike Portnoy on drums, who he's a bad motherfucker too. And I forgot the guitar player and singer's name, but he has kind of a Chris Cornell vibe to him. Richie Kotsik or something like that.
Yeah, I know who you're
trying to go
about.
through the list of some of the. I've never heard of a lot of the groups that they have on these things. Like I've never heard of. Well, I've heard of Derek and the Dominoes, but I didn't know that was a super group.
Is that a super group?
Yeah, they say like the Honey Drippers. I don't remember who all was in there.
I don't know.
Apparently. So
the Honey Drippers, that was Robert Plant, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Robert Plant, and I don't remember who else was in the band, but I didn't know that was considered a supergroup either. I guess it depends on.
Didn't they have Asia?
Asia was a supergroup.
Asia, yeah, I didn't realize that either. Like Heat of the Moment.
What about Coverdale Page?
So, like, I don't think this counts. This is the I would count David Lee Roth stuff because it was based on David Lee Roth. Yes, it's all the talented musicians and stuff, but on this list they also count Ringo Starr and his All Stars. That's just Ringo Starr and his band. It might have been. I haven't looked who all was in it.
I think it would depend on.
And maybe
it
was great,
right?
Yeah,
I think it depends who's in the band.
But nobody knows, so it couldn't be that big of a.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, I
It's not
don't know, but that doesn't mean
household
no one
knowledge
knows.
anyway.
Well,
I do
maybe
see Chickenfoot on here.
Well, who's in the band? Because that's what changes it. I mean, if it was Ringo Starr and his All Star band, then it was a bunch of All Stars. Well, then I would consider that a supergroup. But hold on, but where do you drop like Coverdale Page? Like where does that go? They're two big names, but is that enough to make it a supergroup?
It seemed more like just a collaboration, like just two guys coming together to collaborate for a short time, which is it was great.
Okay, well, no, hey, so yeah, if this was his band, then yeah, I'm going to say these were all stars.
Who is it?
Who you got?
Well,
they do list.
I don't know. Let me put it this way: I don't know if these were all at the same time.
Right.
But here's the list. I just googled Ringo Starr and his All Stars or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
On saxophone, Edgar Winter. On drums,
okay.
Greg Bizinet. We already talked about.
Yeah.
On guitar, Colin Hay from Men at Work.
Yeah.
Warren Ham. I think he was.
Yeah.
He was in Men at Work, wasn't he?
I consider all those.
Ringo Starr, obviously. Stevie Nicks, Steven Tyler, Tim Capello.
Holy shit.
Joe Walsh.
I mean,
Joe Walsh.
That's a super group of
Billy Squire, Greg Rowley, and Eric Burden.
Holy fuck!
How'd they divide that fucking paycheck?
Well, I'm sure they were probably at different times.
So yeah. So like Billy Preston. You remember Billy Preston was the dude that played keyboards for the Beatles.
Yeah.
On that Let It Be. Was it Let It Be? Yeah. That dude is awesome.
I mean, I'm sure those were not all at the same time.
Hold on, I'm not even done. Christopher Cross, Richard Page, Burton Cummings.
Now, did he? It almost seems like he switched people out in and out.
Obviously, there weren't 40 people on stage at a time. But listen to the Peter Frampton.
Yeah.
Leo Kottke, that's the guy you were talking about earlier. Ray Davies, Niels Lofgren, Rick Derringer, Sheila E., Paul McCartney. Who the hell's that?
Mm-hmm.
John
Waite, in there?
Ian Hunter, Eric Carmen.
That's the Hungry Eyes guy.
Yeah, I mean, so the list just keeps going on and on and on.
Well,
Slash.
Here's the thing: no matter who you put with another person in that band, it's an all-star band every time.
Right.
Yeah,
so
I would say that's
traded in and out.
Doesn't matter.
That's almost like a variety show.
Group. Doesn't matter. That's a super group the whole time.
That is literally a super group.
Right.
Well, that's because there's 500 members.
Yeah, but
you
put together any of those members, it's a super group every single time.
So here's who you have in Asia. You have John Wetton from King Crimson in UK.
Shit, hold on. I'll be right back.
You have Steve Howe from Yes. You have Jeff Downes from Yes and the Buggles. And then Carl Palmer from Emerson, Lake and Palmer. So I guess that's why they consider it.
I mean, I guess so because
super group. I mean,
those guys all had pretty decent careers.
Yeah, they were. I think you'd have to be. The majority of the band has to be known for something else first. That's why some of them I don't understand, but I don't know. It's like, is the Cherry Bombs a super group?
I would say no because they were not big before.
Right.
They were not. Joan Jett wasn't Joan Jett, but at that point, Lita Ford wasn't Lita Ford at that point. So that was my point. Just like the Eagles.
Yeah.
They were all just the Eagles, and they became big names after the fact.
Right. It's being in the Cherry Bombs is what got them in the door to become famous. Right. To
wasn't like they were all. They weren't Lita Ford and Joan Jett, and then they formed the band. They were big beforehand. I mean, they were not big beforehand, I should say.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting, some of the stuff they have.
Sorry, my laptop was going to die. Had to plug it in.
You didn't do that in the beginning?
Well, it was going to die in the beginning.
All right.
So what do we land on? Do you guys have any more supergroups?
I think that's it. Like some of the names of some of the supergroups, like it's such a long rabbit hole. Like apparently the Little River Band is a supergroup, Like I don't know who all's in there. I saw them live in Woodstock, Georgia. Not the famous Woodstock, but I saw them live when I was down there last time. And
also,
I don't know.
Are we gonna pull that metal show and decide on our super group, on the Guys Like Us show super group, or
because I'm not. I mean, there's so
too many variables. Yeah, there's too many variables for it.
I mean, we would just have to say for it to be a super group, the people had to be famous before the band was put together.
I was gonna say I'm willing to say the Guys Like Us show super group. I think at this point it should be Ringo Starr and his all star band, if that's who fuck he had.
That's pretty hard to top.
Yeah, really.
I think it's sort of cheating though when you recruit, since he recruited every musician he ever shook hands with.
Well, that's
that's
how you start a super group there, Ryan.
Yeah, but you need that many of them. Like which?
That's how you stay on top.
Then you might as well become like you might as well like go down the rabbit hole of which combination of Ringo Starr and All Stars was the best combination of Ringo Starr All Stars, because he didn't play with them all the time. So which combination was the best combination?
I wondered if there's a thing maybe like do you guys know who Camp Freddy is?
No.
So Camp Freddy is I know Dave Navarro is on guitar. I'm trying. It is like a super group like thing. Like I'm trying to. I want to say it's maybe that Matt Cameron maybe is on drums, from Pearl Jam and Soundgarden, and I don't remember who's on bass. But it is like a super group thing. But they bring in people to jam with them. So they'll do Camp Freddy, where it's like them, but then they'll bring like Corey Taylor will come jam with them for the night and be on vocals, and then they'll have another guitar player sit in with them and play stuff. So like I don't really know where something like that ranks, where they kind of have like. It's like a core group of people, and then they bring in their buddies to jam with them, and they do like one-off shows.
That would be awesome. I
do think this is one of those topics where like we can encourage people, if you're listening to this on YouTube, it'd be great to like see other people's comments on who they think are, what they think about super groups, or
what constitutes it.
Yeah.
Right.
What do you think one is? What do you think is the best one?
This isn't necessarily a super group, but kind of same thing like Camp Freddy that I will say was just a fun show to see. Is did you guys ever hear of Chevy Metal?
I don't think so.
You know all this stuff and you still haven't finished Science. It's just fucking amazing.
I saw Chevy Metal live and they were fun as shit.
Still haven't finished Yellowstone.
Taylor Hawkins, back before he was dead. It was Taylor.
Okay.
It was Taylor Hawkins.
Not sure if that was totally necessary.
You're saying this is before he was dead.
Okay.
Yeah. So Taylor Hawkins, I want to say Chris Shiflett, maybe the guitar player from Foo Fighters. I don't know if he was a permanent member or not, but I know Taylor was on drums, and then he had kind of like a kind of same thing, all-star group of guys with him that were not as well known as he was, but they were like big deals in music and stuff. But they basically were like a cover band. They just decided like what would be the most fun way for us to do a cover band. And they would be on like festival bills and stuff, but they were all like these giant names. So you wanted to go see them, but they didn't play like, they were just like doing just fun covers of stuff, but they would bring people out and jam with them. So, it would be like Chevy Metal, and then they'd bring out Dave Grohl and they do like Kick Out the Jams or something like that. Like they would do like like something that you wouldn't normally hear them play, and that I saw them when we went to that festival in Philly, and that was a really, really fucking fun show because it was guys that like, they all did vocals, so like they would all kind of change who was singing what song or whatever. But they would just, on a festival, it was like, well, hey, who's not playing right now? Have them come up here and jam a song with us. Like they would just bring people up on stage and just jam. And it felt like the Rockstar version of guys just in their basement, just having at like a party, just having, like what we did at I don't remember his name, but that when we went and jammed, all of us with Adam and Lee and
Sean.
Yeah, Sean. Thank you. I could not remember his name, but yeah, when we went and jammed with Sean and everyone over there, it seemed like they were doing that just on stage with like, almost 100,000 people in the crowd. They were just like, hey, fuck it, what do you guys want to play? And they just jammed whatever they wanted,
Speaking of Foo Fighter stuff. Did you know that Dave Grohl was in a supergroup? I'm not talking about Nirvana.
I was gonna say, are we talking pre-Nirvana?
No, I think it's post. But it was called
them Crooked Vultures.
Yeah.
That's
Paul Jones
actually a
from
fucking
Led
great
Zeppelin
one.
And the guy
Josh
from
Homme.
the guy from
that's a
Queen of
great one
Stone
too.
Age?
If you haven't heard them, you should check them out. They're a really good fucking band. Josh Homme, John Paul Jones, and Dave Grohl.
Anything with John Paul Jones, that dude's a
he got
himself.
so it's cool because Dave Grohl got to go back to drumming.
Yeah,
Well,
he played on Queens of the Stone Age's like a couple of their big albums. He played like that. They're honestly, it's one of my favorite albums ever. That Songs for the Deaf album. He played drums on that whole album, and it was around the same time they jammed with John Paul Jones.
You know what I remember them most for is they had what is that Little Sister song? I don't know if that's the title of it. It's probably their biggest radio hit.
What? Who? Queens of the Stone Age?
Yeah. Do you remember that?
I don't know. Their biggest radio hit was probably No One Knows.
Maybe that's the name of it, but anyway, so they performed it on Saturday Night Live. Right? But the funny thing is that song has a cowbell in it.
Yeah, that's not
and Will Ferrell was the host that. So he came out dressed as his cowbell character and started playing it while they're playing their live set and he's like, doing his thing with the cowbell and everything, but it's that.
Oh, I know.
It's got the tick, 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 tick.
Yeah.
It has the cowbell in it, and he comes out with the cowbell. And like, it's funny because he's hosting that week, and that cowbell is pretty prominent in that song. And I don't think anybody put it together that he would come up and do the cowbell thing, years later. But
have you seen? Because if you've seen Dave Grohl drum with either Nirvana or Queens of the Stone Age or whatever, he's a spaz on drums.
He beats the shit out of those drums.
He beats the fuck out of those drums. But he's also, he's all over the place when he's drumming. He's just spazzing out. He looks like Animal.
Yeah.
But did you see when he played with Tom Petty? So it was, I think, an SNL appearance that he was with Tom Petty.
Now, was this after or before Tom Petty died? Okay.
So this was like
we clarified that now.
Right. I think this was right after Nirvana. He jammed with Tom Petty, and Tom Petty, I think, wanted him to be the full-time drummer, and he was starting Foo Fighters at the time. But it was so funny because they did Run It Down a Dream or something like that. And it's Tom Petty and the rest of his band just being normal because they're not that high energy of a band. So it's Tom Petty, doing his thing and singing like Tom Petty. And in the background, you just see Dave Grohl just fucking spazzing out the whole time, just beating the fuck out of those drums. And it's when he had his super long hair. So it's just flying all, he looks like animals just flying all over the place. And Tom Petty's in front of him, just super chill, just jamming.
It's funny when when you're known for another band and you see somebody trying to be recruited to another band or audition for another band. It's kind of bizarre, like that.
Stevie Ray Vaughan,
that some kind of monster documentary on Metallica, and when they were auditioning bassists on there, and you see these guys that are in these. The bassist from Marilyn Manson, was on there auditioning and everything. And you think, dude, you're you're in Marilyn Manson, like you're saying, and you're like, well, yeah, but this is Metallica,
Well,
it's so crazy to see that kind of stuff happen.
Well, Les Claypool came and jammed with him.
Yeah.
Remember? And it was kind of just all collectively like, well, this isn't going to work, but this is fun.
Yeah. Definitely not a good mix between them,
but
not that he's not good enough to play. He can play it. Just
but fucking Stevie Ray Vaughan falls into that. Stevie Ray Vaughan played on Bowie's album. He was the session guitar player on Let's Dance.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I think I did.
But Bowie wanted him to be the full-time guitar player, and he was like, "Nah, I got my own thing going." And it hadn't popped off yet, really. But he was like, "Nah, I kind of got my own thing I want to do." But Bowie wanted him to come just be the guitar player.
So I don't
the balls
know,
on that guy to turn that down at the time.
I ordered this, by the way.
Cannot see.
I think I might save it to play when you
can't
guys
see it.
get here.
We couldn't see what that was at all.
All right. Let me see here. Let's see if I can. I'll screenshot it and send it to you. I can't wait to listen to it when it gets here. Somebody was selling it, I think, on Facebook. So it's called "Fade to Bluegrass," and it's the bluegrass tribute to Metallica.
Oh, I've heard some of that.
I want to hear it so bad. I can't.
It's
wait.
awesome, dude.
I want to form a bluegrass band just because I have zero musical talent at all. I can't even sing good. I try to drink and sing karaoke, all that stuff. But I think I would be successful in bluegrass just because I came up with the best bluegrass name for a band ever. And it's called the Bluegrass Holes. I think that would work. I think we would sell. But I don't have any bluegrass musical talent, so I'm gonna have to be like that weird, creepy guy that started forming boy bands all the time. So I'm gonna have to do behind the scenes, So.
I'll tell you what, man. I love bluegrass banjo.
I love it.
I love a bluegrass banjo.
I love hearing somebody wail on a banjo.
I'm gonna wait. I'll wait till you guys get up here, and we'll all listen to that. We won't listen to it in the Durango because it'll fucking eat the goddamn thing. But it's out. I send it on the thing so you can see it has the lineup and stuff. So you falling asleep?
Yeah, there's a lighthouse.
See, stop. You can't see. Gotta come up with better cues than this. So it looks like a lighthouse, like you're trying to get me to dock in the fog. Anyway, I think we've given the people enough things to comment about, don't you? They can talk about their thoughts on.
For this week, next week, and last week.
Yeah. When this posts, if you want to discuss our anything about when we were talking about Mayans and Sons of Anarchy, feel free. Just don't spoil the last one for Nicholas. Well, because I don't know when he'll ever watch it.
Well, I don't know
what you're saving.
It depends on when this episode comes out. Nick. If it comes out this week or if it comes out 3 weeks from now.
I don't know. Anyway, if you have your thoughts,
I'll mix them up.
If you have thoughts on the Mayans, if you have thoughts on supergroups, feel free to leave them in the comments below. We are very curious to read them. If you have any bad thoughts about
tell us your favorite.
How my voice sounds. If you have any critiquing of me, keep your shit to yourself. If you don't got nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. That's you can bring it.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. Send it into us. Send it in.
Don't
we'll
make
read it on the air.
Don't make
we'll read it on the air.
This is not a new segment. It is not make Ryan cry.
That is a new segment. I'm approving that segment as of right now.
I just, it doesn't feel like a ratings getter. It really doesn't. I don't see that bump in the numbers.
Well, we gotta try something.
I think that's gonna be a hard pass on that one. We should go with something else. I mean, I sort of teared up telling the car accident story, but that was different. My feelings weren't hurt.
Yeah, that made sense. This one, we're gonna try to cut you to the core.
Fuck that guy.
These are my loving friends.
It'll be great for the ratings. It's like when
I've known one for 30 years. Been my best friend for 30 years. The other one I've known since birth. I've been there practically his whole life, and his loving thoughts are, "We're gonna cut you to the bone."
Look, it'll be great for ratings. It's like when I don't know if you saw when Steve-O tried to see if he could beat what's that shit they fucking give you when you go under now?
Anesthesia?
No, I know, but
water?
No, the one they inject you with. That one that works like ridiculously fast when they tell you to count back from
that.
Yeah, but when they tell you count back from 100 and you get to like 98 and you're out.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is.
He thought he might be able to willpower his way through that, and he decided he had them administer it to him while he was riding a bike.
Oh my god! Oh my god! You can't stop it. I remember when I had that shit. I remember watching them do the injection of it, and I remember going, "Ooh!" I just a quick buzz. I was like, "Ooh, this is the good stuff."
Yeah.
And that was the last thing I remember.
Yeah, it took about that long for Steve-O too, except he was in the middle of pedaling and they did it, and then he just fucking
literally 4 or 5 seconds.
The first time I ever heard about this, I was reading Chris Jericho's book, who's a wrestler, and they talked about being like
also in Fozzy.
They were wrestling in Tijuana, Mexico, and they were their idea of fun was taking whatever the illegal Tijuana version of those are, but to stay up. And that's what they would do. Same thing. The goal was to stay up, and they said if you like break the barrier, it was an incredible high. Like it was you felt so, and they had somebody took pictures of them while they were high, and he put those pictures in his book, and they looked so fucking goofy, just like and all this kind of stuff, but they were high on it. And they said that's how they would get high in Tijuana, was to take their sedatives, but then force them, they would get up and run around and do everything to stay awake. And then once they reached a certain point, you were just high. Like you weren't even sleepy anymore. You were just fucked up.
Well, yeah, that's like the, what is it, like 13 Benadryl and try to power through. Take 13 Benadryl and try to power through it. It does not work like that.
All right. Well, I think some of the cast here has already taken their Benadryl and ready to pass out. So we're gonna. You want to fight through it? You want to fight through it?
I'll never make it.
You want to see what this show's like if you fight through this?
I'll never make it.
Nah, I'm anxious to go put the old CPAP back on. Oh, I switched
back
to
your fucking old man talk.
By the way, I switched dip to. I don't dip tobacco anymore. Like I'm dipping these CBD packets. You know how like the little tobacco pods come in the pouches? Yeah, the little pouches. So I'm putting the little CBD tea bags in my mouth now. If I don't,
you said tea bags.
I'm clipping that.
Tea bags, you going with tea bags in my mouth? So anyway.
Oh yes.
Thought you weren't gonna get another nugget before the show was over, did you?
Right.
What was the over under on that? Don't spill that drink. Don't spill that drink.
Save that one.
So anyway, but yeah, I switched to the CBD ones, and like that sleep's been pretty fucking phenomenal too. See, now you're awake again. I knew I could pull it off.
Thinking about those tea bags in your mouth.
I don't know what you're watching, but it looks like the cops have pulled up into your bedroom.
It does. Just the red and blue light.
It's like Shark Week is going on.
Excuse me, sir. Could you put down that microphone and step outside?
Isn't Jason Momoa doing Shark Week?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been on this. I don't know.
Nice.
I'm not really paying attention to it. It's just going on in the background. I've seen him a couple of times on here.
He's just sad.
I don't understand these people fucking crazy getting in these getting in these cages. Yeah. Like, I don't know if you've noticed these cages, they have like big fucking holes where a shark can get in.
Yeah.
Like, hey, what's the point of this cage? And you got the fucking front doors wide open here.
It does seem like it'd be pretty cool though to be down there in a shark cage. Like I don't want one that's open like that, all stupid.
The shark cage is completely closed.
Watch that movie. What is it? 47 Meters Down?
No, fuck that.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, fuck that.
They're in a shark cage,
but
the thing snaps and it sinks to the bottom. So you have to get your way out of the shark tank and then fight your way through the sharks to get back to the surface.
No, fuck that.
My honky ass ain't getting in one of them cages. That's all I got to tell you. You never see no brothers in these cages either. That's the other thing.
Yep.
You never see any brothers in these cages. I don't blame them.
But you see them nowadays. Watch reaction videos on YouTube of honkies doing this shit.
Yeah, they yell laugh about
it. That's become fun to watch. So anyway, all right, we're gonna wrap this episode up. I gotta piss. Somebody's gotta sleep. I don't know what you're doing, not Nick, but whatever. You're gonna be busy.
Mayans.
Yeah.
busy not watching Mayans.
Yeah. I had to fold some laundry and I had to. Anyway,
tell them where to find us.
But definitely, you can find us on the YouTube, and you can find us on Spotify. And Is it wherever podcasts are found?
Yeah, wherever podcasts are found, go follow us there. Leave a
wherever
comment.
you listen to your podcast,
subscribe.
Yeah.
Leave a comment.
Yeah,
and
make sure you like and subscribe.
Yeah, but
Somebody should write this down.
Yeah, go
Thumbs up.
subscribe to the YouTube. Also, I
He
forgot
said
to
the
mention this
YouTube.
on the last episode, so this one might end up getting put in
No,
first.
wait a minute.
Anyway, Ryan. But I also just went on Rock and Roll Autopsy. That show was a lot of fun. I've actually been talking to them. I've been talking to them.
Hobnobbing.
Yeah, I've been talking to them about coming on to our show. By the way,
Is that another podcast that's better than ours?
Yeah, but I've been talking to them about coming on our show as guests and us also possibly going on their show. That show was a lot of fun, but I went on there and talked about Stage Dive and how streaming has affected the music business as a whole. It was really fun. Oh my god, I'm burping like a motherfucker right now.
Well, let's go on there.
Not to plug anybody, but is that metal nerdery thing anymore?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. All right.
We
I
can plug them
used
too.
to see
Go
stuff.
support the metal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Those guys are all good guys.
Yeah, we have some buddies on there.
Those guys are all good dudes.
Yeah, go support the metal nerdery and go support Rock and Roll Autopsy. Those guys are awesome, and be on the lookout for Stage Dive. Go follow and subscribe to all of our stuff at Get Stage Dive, and be on the lookout for that. The Guys Like Us show will be on there, as well as the show before the show. We will be able to put on Stage Dive whenever it comes out.
And our underscore thing.
Yeah, Guys Like Us _pod on Instagram.
All right. Do you check that ever?
Yes.
Is there anything ever there?
Yeah, we need to post more stuff on there.
Okay.
Yeah. And we are Guys Like Us at gmail.com if you want to contact us directly and either attack Ryan as a person or just give your thoughts on the show.
No. Use it for the purpose it's for. We're available for birthday parties.
Bar mitzvahs.
Bar mitzvahs. That kind of stuff. If you would like to book us to come in and do our podcast live for,
or we could even just DJ stuff.
Yeah.
You still got all those CDs, don't you?
Look, if you want to throw a party, we will come throw a party
CDs
at your house on your dime. That's
right. That's right.
If you want to throw a really fun party, Ryan will DJ it, and I will be the hype man for your party.
That's right. There we go.
I'll get drunk and throw up on your cab.
Yeah. We'll have you'll have some fucking stories if you remember them. That's all we're saying.
Sure.
That's all we're saying.
Anybody that's ever partied with me has stories. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Or trying to still remember them.
That's their problem.
Listen, if you've ever woken up on his front yard by the fire department, you know what's down. All right. You know that shit's getting down. So anyway, at the end of these parties, though, you want to make sure that you don't
step on down powered.
That's right. No matter what party we're doing, we still do not encourage that kind of fucking behavior.
Be kind and rewind when you finish listening.
That's right.
This.
Yeah.
Is that your new thing? How fucking long is this send off going to be by the time we're done? You guys keep adding new stuff. I got a whole Stage Dive thing. I got a pitch now. You're adding stuff to your thing.
Yeah. From now on, we're gonna have to start ending the episode about 5-6 minutes in.
Yeah.
Start doing it's gonna be a show about wrap ups.
I tried to.
We already have
this episode.
We have 7 different names too, so it's fine. We have the 2 Nicks and a Dick. We have Taint Misbehaving. We have
I don't think we have the trademark to any of this.
Yeah, it's just we talk about everybody else's show. We have Who Podcasts the Podcasts. We have we have 2 different Guys Like Us. We have just Guys Like Us, and we have Guys Like Us.
No, we don't have just Guys Like Us. That's
we did. Okay, we have
some
the Guys Like Us show. Yes, could you please? You remember when I had that Bible setting in the background and I brought out the Bosworth book? That was awesome.
Yeah, there's some Christian podcast called Guys Like Us that I think will be none too pleased by us sending our fans over that way.
I don't think they're still going. There's only so much Jesus talk you could do.
Well, I don't know. That book's pretty fucking big.
They've been doing it for 2,000 years, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they wrapped that up already. Anyway, speaking of wrapping up, do you like that segue? That's pretty sweet one.
Hey, segue guys back.
All right. Anyway, that's going to do it for us. Make sure you tune in on the next episode. Be kind, rewind, all that good stuff. And are we doing all this shit again, or what are we doing?
We're done. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.
Later. Bye. All right. I got to piss.
This has been a Sage Media production.
You're still here? It's over. Go home.